This is MEI Statistics Minor Sampling 1.2 Sample Features. So we want to ask, what makes a good sample? A sample should be unbiased. Now, if due to the design of a study, and that is important, due to the design of the study, certain outcomes will occur more often in the sample, we say the sample exhibits bias, or we say it is biased. A biased sample is not representative of the population, but that relationship only holds one way. Biased sample implies not representative. The reverse does not hold, as we will see shortly. So, some possible sources of bias. The sampling frame may lack representation from parts of the population. So the sampling frame is the list where we get our possible sampling units from. So a list of people to call, a list of people to talk to, a list of animals to look at. That is called undercoverage bias. These terms in brackets you don't need to know, but they will make your answers sound more accomplished if you know them. So for instance, this number 1, telephone surveys won't reach the homeless, prison inmates, unlisted numbers for example, because our sampling frame is likely to be a directory of numbers which will not include the whole population. Some sampling subjects may not be reachable or may refuse to participate, non-response bias. So this is where sampling subjects are in the sampling frame, but they do not take part in the study for some reason. This may introduce bias because subjects willing to participate might be different in some way. For instance, they might have strong emotional convictions about the issues being surveyed. Some sampling subjects may not respond to every question, so that's another type of non-response bias due to missing data. Alternatively, a questionnaire or an interviewer may ask a question in a leading way, so that subjects are more likely to respond in a certain way, and that is response bias. I found a good example of this on the internet. The American National Rifle Association Questionnaire 2018 asked this question: do you support laws that protect your fundamental right to use a firearm to defend yourself and your loved ones from a violent criminal attacker? There is only one way they want you to answer that question. That is almost certainly going to get a biased response. So what makes a good sample? Well, data should be relevant. It's common sense really, but for example, if we've got a new stop smoking product planned for release and needs to be tested, and we take a sample from the whole UK population, clearly the data from the non-smokers will be irrelevant and will be a waste of time and money. Data should not be changed by the act of sampling. For instance, if I took the temperature of a heated liquid in a container in a science experiment by removing it from the heat and opening the container, that is almost certainly going to be changing the temperature by the act of sampling. Another example would be inaccurate measurement or over-rounding. The data is being changed by that sampling. A sample should be random wherever possible. Now, a random sample may not be representative of the population purely by chance, but that doesn't mean the sampling is biased. That's a very important point. And of course, the larger the random sample, as we saw in the previous video, the more likely the sample is to be representative of the population. Also, a random sample enables proper inference to be undertaken, as the assumptions on which the sample has been selected are known, and most statistical tests assume a sample is random, so results from a non-random sample may not be reliable. This is the final video in sampling.